It's a very interesting piece of technology because it served two purposes. One was that it was an astronomical device where you could, by using it, chart your position to the stars and navigate your way through the seas. It was also an astrological device so that someone could tell you, if you were born on this date and your planet sign is this, then certain things are going to happen to you when the planets are in this alignment. So it was a very interesting piece of technology that literally had more complicated gears and inner workings than a modern-day Swiss watch. And it's found to be dated, I think, like 200 BC, so it's really an anomaly as to who could have created that and what it was being used for.
For something to be a scientific theory, it really needs to be something you can test with an obvious experiment.
But how could the ancient Egyptians have used anything resembling a modern-day light bulb without access to electricity? After all, electricity wouldn't be discovered for thousands of years. That is, of course, with the exception of what scientists call the Baghdad battery.
The Baghdad battery was discovered in ancient Iraq. Scholars today say there's no way that ancient man was using electricity or light bulbs. So they look at this Baghdad battery, and there's about a dozen of them that have been found in Iraq. And the only mainstream theory is that they were using it for electroplating jewelry.
Two major proponents of ancient alien theory, Jason Martell and Giorgio Tsoukalos, demonstrate just how the Baghdad battery could generate electricity using a modern mock-up of the device.
Well, basically this is made out of a clay pot, clay just found naturally in that region in southern Iraq, and then they would use a small copper lining and something along the lines of an asphalt stopper wrapped around an iron rod. And these all applied together, and the combination of some weak acidic acid, vinegar, grape juice, orange juice in this case, wine, would be able to generate a charge by combining these elements with the iron rod and the copper, and the combination of that creates an abundance of electricity. So what we're going to do is basically just fill the clay pot with some orange juice here. I'll try not to spill it too much. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and put the copper rod back in there, copper and iron rod. We'll give it a moment to kind of fill that copper area there. And then by turning on the voltmeter and applying this to each side, we should be able to generate a charge. And there it goes, into the positive. And if we give it some time to get the electrolytes really buzzing in there, you'll see that this volt will actually continue to rise.
But while some see the Baghdad battery as evidence that man was sparked on by extraterrestrial wisdom,
if we look at the similarities of what our astronauts look like when they are in a rocket ship or in the space shuttle and have gear attached to them, there are similarities being shown. So one just has to ask the question of, is this just an artifact symbolically showing something, or are they trying to depict, with their own limited understanding of the time, what was taking place? The idea that there are stargates or that they could have existed in ancient times, we do see many artifacts and representations of someone passing through a doorway or going through some type of energy source. And ancient man did not understand technology, just as we're trying to understand, is a wormhole possible? And the locals always describe seeing large blue balls of light or glowing discs, and sometimes even beings reported around these sightings. These beings are always reported as tall, pale-skinned, completely non-indigenous to the people that are dark-skinned, dark-haired in these South American regions. Someone who had seen this had to have actually relayed the information to them because they couldn't have just guessed. So it really starts to raise the question of saying this ancient astronaut theory really needs to have more light shed on the topic. That really raises the question that scholars and theologians have been trying to figure out for many years. Is there an Atlantean or some lost civilization? So Mark Iwassi puts that question back on the map. Could this be possible? Were there transoceanic cultures visiting thousands of years ago off the books of recorded history? We have to remember that Antarctica is covered by at least a mile thick ice. We didn't have ground-penetrating radar until 1958. So for a map to exist in 1531 accurately showing the topography, it's pretty interesting. The most ancient civilization that we have on record, the Sumerian culture, has left us evidence of what's called a shem. And this object looks very similar to a modern-day space capsule that we place on top of a rocket. In this shem,
is where priests would go into the Shem to interact with the gods, or anytime man was ascending or descending into heaven. So it's a very interesting term used from a culture dating back to 3800 BC and very clearly matches the descriptions of a modern-day rocket.
I don't want to discount human ingenuity, because I do believe that we do have the ability to do these things over a longer period of time, but the knowledge to build some of these monuments, there had to have been some type of intervention or some type of knowledge given to ancient man to carry out those instructions. They couldn't have just come up with it on their own.